DCarsonCPA MFC on the lines. Today we're going to cover the lines on the inland marine, also known as trucking lines. This is an interesting line. It's not so common that you might expect it's on the main line, but it's an important line of the connections of goods and services in the economy and financial, so it makes it a point. It's very relevant. And this is just going to be a broad and swift sketch about these lines, and later on we'll circle back, but we think it's a very important part of the economy and the productivity cycle, so we wanted to bring it here. And we wanted to let you know we can help with accounting, financials, tax, compliance skills. And it's an interesting line that you might not expect we can help. So we figured we'd draft in a little bit, share a little bit, and you can know from there that we're here to help. Now, I personally had a very interesting experience with trucking because at one point in a younger time, it was a time where it was a little bit different in the economy a number of years back, and I lived in a place where there were a lot of opportunities. Someone was moving into a place, they were carrying, in trucking lines, they were carrying someone's goods to their house. It's one of the things that can happen in the moving lines. They needed help to move in the furniture, and I picked up a gig to help move the stuff into someone's house. It was the end point of a shipping line where they're dropping off the stuff. They needed someone to help lift the stuff and bring it in. Of course, it's a different time working on different things then, but still a relevant line of an opportunity to make money in the economy and financials. So we wanted to reconnect it at this date and time and see different levels where we help in accounting and financials. Today you think about the economy, you think about individuals and families in the economy, entities here with, we're going to look at a cycle here where we've got an entity that might be dealing with agriculture. Agriculture is produced at a farm, it's refined at a farm, produced packaged goods, and then those packaged goods need to find a truck and be shipped back to the points in cities and other areas like grocery stores where individuals and families can access those goods and services. And a critical part of that, this does kind of cross-connect to our lines. Check out DCarsonCPA lines in agriculture, plenty of knowledge there about agriculture. This is a little bit about infrastructure, and it's really corresponding to the inland marine lines, which in insurance terms is the insurable lines for trucking. And we're just going to connect it real quick. There should be a short video, give you some structure to it. We can definitely map in from the surrounding bullet points. This lets you know that we can help in these lines. All right, if you think about it, basically what's happening is you have entities, NGOs, and governments as stakeholders here. I'm going to say these are the stakeholders because entities are really the ones that are with this need to ship goods. So once they produce some agriculture goods or some other, could be consumer product goods, you reach a point where you need from one point to the next some trucking, and you might have trucking to shipping and shipping to plane. It could be a whole chain of things, but we're really just focused on inland marine trucking right now. So if we look at this, then, and that doesn't mean we couldn't help you on the other things, it just means that this is what this sketchboard is about. On the lean lines here, DCarsonCPA MFC, the sketchboards where we can help in certain elements of needs. We think about taxation, we think about the fuel needs here, we think about the weight and load because you have trucks that are out there on highways, they have to get weighed in. That weight load will be a driver of some taxation burdens. You're going to have to think about those elements of cost. And then there's the commercial versus non-commercial lines of shipping because this is about commercial fleets, and that's pretty much what we're focused on. But you could have non-commercial fleets in more rural areas that are working on shipping, and still you might have a small business there, so maybe there's some relevance to your points. These are shipping lines. They deal with shipping companies, and shipping companies have weight that they move on the highways, so there's kind of a load resistance factor, which increases fuel consumption. So you want efficient loads. You want to know, what the price per weight. So if you start to think about the economics of it, price per weight would be a driving factor on the cost and the tolls, and a driving factor on fuel consumption. So you should, in the metrics of your pricing for these businesses, be thinking about how weight and load resistance increase tax fees and fuel consumption. And then we think about the bills of lading, because bills of lading talk about who bears the risk when the shipments are boarded onto these trucks. Is it, FOB ship or FOB destination? All mean different things for the bill of lading, and to some degree there's a bailment which is created when you load this merchandise onto the truck. The commercial shipper suddenly has an insurance liability, and hence the inland marine lines of insurability that we had some exposure to. But awareness is always a good start point, and anything on here we can do more with research, and that's the point. The next line out is we're going to talk about the entity needs. You got to have some degree of legal entity set up, ideally to insulate you from a risk. If you're a shipper, I think you want a legal entity. You don't want to be personally responsible for the shipping. It's smart practice in many businesses to have established an entity, which mitigates your risk, and certainly that's an area where attorneys are expert. But you want to think about part of your lines to have an entity set up. Make sure you've got some sort of an entity that you maintain, that it's set up correctly, that you do correct accounting and taxes, where we can help you to set that up. that you have good insurance to the name of that entity, and that you're not mixing the business and personal lines, because an entity, to maintain its structure, needs to be focused on the entity needs. It does not become, personal line. Personal lines are personal, business lines are business, so keep the two separated and be smart about your accounting. Next line up, we think about fleet and maintenance, because while this is inland marine and trucking, it's also relevant to things like carriers, like taxis in some ways. We didn't want to get into that conversation, but we can help in those lines for fleet accounting and stuff, and just think about that. So when the next point up comes, you've got fleet and maintenance, you've got vehicles, and you need to maintain them. You need to find ways to finance your vehicles, to get your trucks, or to lease them. Who's going to be in your fleet? How are they going to carry goods? How are you going to structure that fleet? These are all points we'll come back to, because we're just really introducing these lines. And then the next points down, we're going to think about your fuel lines. We talked about those, the cost of shipping. So if you're going to map out to a certain range, you've got to know what your fuel costs would be able to project that, be able to know how different types of load factors, certain lines like liquids are more dense materials at times, so you're shipping more dense materials increases fuel costs, increases tax costs. Then you look at the risk lines, you help kind of map that out, get some insurers in to help you out, get some good insurance policies, and also assure that some of the inland marine lines are self-insured, where you build up money, you retain in your business, but in an effort to manage costs, there's a certain degree of risk retention, and that's an area where you can partner with insurance. We can help you think about financials, and you work with your insurance, people who are licensed agents and may have to have multi-state access lines. That's for them to cover, but it's an element of our awareness to help you on that in the accounting lines. When we come down to here, it's the accounting, it's the taxes, and then there's the kind of payroll and the fleet parking lines. Ideally, if you got a fleet, you don't want them parked and you don't want them off-road. You want to make sure you have good maintenance schedules, and I'm certain that there's plenty of compliance lines in that to have the vehicles out on the road. At a minimum, you have vehicle registration, but you also want to make sure if you got a fleet, you wouldn't want to have an idle fleet, because an idle fleet means you have economic assets that are not at work, and if they're not at work, they're not making you money, so it's not going to help you out. So in the long run, this is DCarsonCPA MFC lines. We're building out the lines for inland marine, for the trucks and transport. It's interesting to us because the idea of moving things in the economy is critical. It's important to, moving consumer product goods, moving agriculture, moving many things of physical good nature in the economy and financials. We live in an economy where we get all too comfortable with things happen on the internet, but if we don't have this trucking, believe you me, the line's shut down. We need to make sure that we've got good support, good agriculture, support lines on trucking and inland marine, and all these points are important lines that we're interested to help. So if you are someone that deals with inland marine and trucking, be aware that DCarsonCPA is a global line of research. We map it in many ways, and we can think with the same map that we use for other sectors. We can build out lines for inland marine, connect to your benchmarks in accounting, financials, taxes, industry, economics, to connect to the compliance framework, and to help in your strategic teamwork, so that you can be a good part of the logistics chain, so that you can meet your best productivity and efficiency lines. And we're very happy and interested to map in and help out in inland marine. We think it's an important and exciting area in the economy, and if you have an equal interest to work with us and to have us help in project services to prove value, or to help us work in fact in your entity, maybe you have a small fleet that you're working with, my name is Dean Carson. We're here to help. This is our inland marine lines for outreach. It's part of the broader DCarsonCPA lines in accounting, tax, and financials, and we hope you like this brief introduction. It's just a way to let you know we're here to help, and there's many more like it on different elements, and many of them interact, because at the end of the day, in the economy and financials, we all have needs where we connect through financials, duties of compliance that support the legal lines and teamwork, and other points in communications, teamwork, awareness. I didn't mention here that, if you're a shipper, you also need to be able to communicate and get your lines out, and so we have social, PR, and communications lines that can also be used for inland marine to help you boost the signal and let people know you're there and you're interested in contracts. And that's it. I'm Dean Carson. We think about the lines of you and inland marine. We think about the ability to help industry, NGOs, because there might